Alright, so today we're going to be carving a egg-shaped seal out of soapstone. So I have my block of soapstone right here. And before I do any of my carvings, I like to draw out a rough out of what I want it to look like. So I have an idea what it looks like from the side, top, front, and back. This way I know exactly what I want it to look like, but I will not carve it to the exact specifications in which I drew it. These are all just basic sketches, so I have an idea where everything is and that I don't miss something if I'm gonna start carving it. So for my soapstone, I have this nice little end piece that I picked up, which has a nice little coloration, which I think will be perfect for a little seal. First things first, I have to get it to about the right shape. I'm gonna turn this into a little bit of a block before, like a little block before I start carving anything. So for this sculpture, I wanted to make something for my wife, and she loves seals. But not just any seal. Really fat spherical seals, like these. Alright, now that I got it sort of more in a blockish shape, I'm going to start actually taking more material off. I'm going to be using all hand tools in this one. So, here you go. Now when you're doing these as well, it's a good idea to sketch out where you want to actually do all your carving. I like to leave a little bit more stone than what's needed. That way I'm not over cutting it. Just rough it out a little bit more to where you need it. Alright, now that I have mostly roughed out, I'm going to start smoothing out one dimension of it. That way it's easier for me to identify where all my angles are. I won't start to smooth out the edges until I get everything situated where I want it to be. Alright, now that I have it somewhat shaped out to the side that I want, I'm going to start smoothing out the bottom and the top. I'm going to leave the head and tail unaltered for the time being. So that way I can make sure I can focus on those, because those are going to be the more important details. Now a couple things I have to remember is that I left a little bit of room for some flippers in here, so I'm going to mark on the side whereabouts I want them so I can avoid that. This does not have to be perfect. I do not believe that you should have perfect soapstone sculptures at all, or they don't have to be. I don't believe that you should have perfect soapstone sculptures. Sometimes the more imperfect, the more lifelike they feel like they can be. Alright, now that I have it rounded off mostly and most of the rough edges carved off, I'm going to start focusing a little bit more on rounding it out, making the areas where I want it to be round and egg-like, more spherical. So after I remove most of the stone, I like to check and see if there's any imperfections by dipping the entire sculpture into some water. Doing this, I can clean off a lot of the dust and see if there's any imperfections in the stone at the same time. Now when you're sanding, one of the things you want to make sure of is you're not taking out any of the details. So be careful where you're sanding. Like right now I don't want to take out too much of the face. I do want to smooth it out, but that's going to be done with the water sanding. Or wet sand. It's going to be done in wet sand. After wet sanding with 1000 grit sandpaper, I let the stone dry off for a little while and apply some beeswax. I melt some beeswax in a little custom soapstone bowl that I made. This keeps the wax nice and melted for a long period of time in the event that I have a bigger sculpture. To melt the wax and heat up the sculpture at the same time, I put them both in a toaster oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes. In the meantime, I like to clean my tools I just used with a wire brush. This way I could quickly pick them up and use them again for the next sculpture.
Now that you brought your sculpture back to your workstation, apply the beeswax with a soft cloth and let the sculpture sit for a little bit. Before the sculpture cools down all the way, go ahead and take another soft cloth that has no wax on it and buff the current layer of wax you have on there right now. This will give it a nice shine afterwards. Thank you for watching, everybody. If you want to see more, go ahead and hit the like button and click subscribe for more.